I wonder, who is Steven talking about? Well, gang, it looks like somebody is finally openly coming out against Big Con and Big Con Inc. Now, guys, many people don't know who Big Conservative Inc. is, but obviously it is a group of, let's just say, conservative influencers who, for a long time, many people within the actual movement itself have kind of sort of, how do I say this, been a little bit suspicious of. Now, this right here has got nothing to do with, I don't know, it's got nothing to do with presidential candidates or anything like that there. It's got to do with maybe the possibility that some conservative organizations, and what I mean by that is The Blaze, Crowder himself, possibly the Daily Wire, Turning Point USA, Posobiec. A lot of these people, many people don't believe that these people are actually as conservative as they say they are, and some people believe that these organizations may even be grifting. There are personalities out there that I personally have accused of grifting. One of those, of course, was Mike Cernovich, and of course, I've always been a little bit wary of Kurt Schlichter. But of course, there are a lot of conservative personalities that, quite frankly, sort of let's just say, kind of sort of monopolize the actual environment itself. And Crowder is simply calling out the fact that some of these may be doing big tech's bidding. Now, before we go any further, I want to go ahead and let you guys know right now. There are two main pieces that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at a good portion of Crowder, what he had to say. We're going to be doing that there from behind the camera. The original idea was to have the webcam up, but for whatever reason, my computer's not exactly responding very well to the download. So this video here, of course, does need to get out there, but we're not going to be using the webcam. We're just going to be using the basic camera over here on the actual stand itself, but we're also going to be looking at the actual speech and be showing it to you guys, of course, in real time. Not the whole thing, but definitely the pieces that I think may have actually stuck out the most. Number two, there's also a piece from Tim Pool, who, by the way, did comment on this video by Crowder. Now, before we go to that there, I want to go ahead and throw this out here. Most people thought that what the hell Steven Crowder was really calling out was not so much the fact that the contract was bad, but he was calling out what he may deem as bad actors. I think we'll know a little bit more in the future, and I can already hear somebody come in the comment section and say, wait a minute, we already heard this story. We know that Steven Crowder, of course, is no longer we now know that Mug Club is no longer a part of the Blaze. Maybe that's just who he was calling out. I don't think so. I think that he pretty much addressed that when he talked about Mug Club, and I also think that he pretty well addressed that during this speech here, or during this little spiel here. Many people automatically jump to the conclusion that it's the Daily Wire. I mean, they do seem to be the most obvious, and of course, I can't throw any accusations around because, we'll just say that during this entire ordeal, you will figure it out. As a matter of fact, I went into the comment section of that video and tried to respond to a pinned comment from Steven Crowder himself, and we asked people, who do you think it was? I got this right here. Now, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's something. I mean, for all I know, it could be absolutely nothing. But I do find it funny that suddenly, and of course, there were people who did, in fact, comment the exact same thing that I tried to comment, and their comments went through. But I'm just a little bit curious of why it is that they would not allow me to comment. And by the way, I did comment from all three of my accounts. I commented from the John Claymore account. I commented from the Gear Issue 33 account, and I commented from my own personal account, okay, which, by the way, I don't want anybody having actual access to. Fact of the matter is, something definitely does seem a little bit afoot here, and this is another reason why we're going to use the Tim Pool clip, of which, by the way, he commented on this right, because he also even commented on the video as you guys are seeing here. And we're also going to be bringing our buddy Mark Dice back into the forte, because I'm pretty sure some of you guys who watch this content already know where I'm going with this, but still, though, at the same time, we can't actually go ahead and come on out with it, or else YouTube's algorithm will, of course, give this channel a strike. And I think that right there is what Steven Crowder may have actually been alluding to. With that there being said, let's go ahead and hop behind the computer and look at it.
Told by the powers that be that you didn't exist. I was told that the only way to make a living in this business was to cater to older conservative generations, and that comedy, that entertainment, that edgy quote-unquote content didn't work on the right side of the spectrum. An entertainment show would never work. All of you are the only reason that we here were even remotely vindicated. And Mug Club sealed it. I remember exactly where I was when I thought up the idea of Mug Club. I remember who I was with. I remember what I was eating. I remember why. This video here, it's not about the Blaze. When they were purchased by CRTV, the company's goals, their vision, simply grew further apart from mine, from ours.
Now, really quick, guys. Crowder addressed this back in December, right before his Christmas show. He actually addressed the whole possibility about the Blaze and how it was the Mug Club was ending their partnership with the Blaze at the time. This is one of the reasons why I kind of find it hard to believe it's the Blaze, even though he just said, hey, look, it's not the Blaze. Some people may think to themselves, well, that there may be a dead giveaway that maybe it is. I personally don't think that it is, because the Blaze, for the most part, still remains very, very much a pro-Trump network. Steve Deese, for example, Jason Whitlock, a lot of these guys also at the same time formerly worked in the media. Glenn Beck, of course, had been fired from Fox. I want to say he had also worked at CNN, as well as Jason Whitlock in the sports media, and they, for the most part, pretty well said that they were still in favor of supporting former President Trump. Now, like I said before, I understand that I said that this was not about political candidates, and for the most part, I don't think that this right is about political candidates, but I figured I'd throw that out for further context. And Stephen, by the way, has called out former Governor Ron DeSantis. This is right after the Mar-a-Lago ordeal. Now, that right there is a different topic for a different date that we may can look back on at a later point in time. But I think that this entire ordeal screams one particular network kind of sort of monopolizing everything. And don't worry, we will discuss that as we look at this much, much further.
It just wasn't the right fit. Yeah, I wasn't thrilled about some things and the, handling of Mug Club leaving. And that's why, we launched mugclubforever.com, where you can sign up just to be able to reach you. This really isn't about that. So I want to create some separation here. Business relationships end all the time. That's business. But I was in a period to field offers from other people, other key players in this movement. They flooded in. Now, before you guess who it is, before you start trying to do some Sherlock Holmes work, there are far more people beneath the tip of the iceberg than you know about who are trying to get into this space. There are more than you would probably assume. So I went into free agency. I looked over the offers. And I saw the clause come out. And I don't just mean unreasonable demands for control, but what I would argue are immoral terms that actually punish conservative content creators on behalf of big tech. And that's something that I just couldn't unsee. And I want to let you know, it's not the exception. It's the rule. Kids out there coming up. We need to build a bench here in this movement. It's almost impossible. Don't sign these contracts. I now know what you are signing out there. I have the luxury of not having to. I don't have to be here. I don't have to say this. Please, don't sign this. Certainly not without professional legal counsel representation. Do not sign something that includes, let me go through this. Effectively, full ownership of all your social media platforms, channels, in perpetuity, the rights to your content, name, image, likeness, even the ones that you've built. Don't sign contracts out there that include multi-million-dollar penalties for different. Let me read you an example of what I mean. And this would be if it was me. If a creator fails to deliver a monthly content in any month or any of the quarterly content in the corner, including any and all ad reads, and by the way, all these contracts came with 3, 4, 5 ad reads per show, which would fundamentally change what this show is. Got to get those dollar bills. If I failed to do that, it would be a $250,000 reduction in fee per quarter. If, let's say, we did do everything per quarter, but annually maybe missed something, like let's say we went and did a Change My Mind instead of a daily show, which of course requires a lot more work, it'd be a separate $1 million penalty for that if you miss a single piece of content. And the amount of content required is not in line with, frankly, it's worse than Disney, it's worse than ABC, it's worse than NBC, it's worse than CBS. This is ownership of you and everything that you do. But here's, just to drive it home, don't sign something that has another $100,000 daily penalty if it's not signed off on beforehand. You get hit by a car, you have a sick day, you could lose $100,000 a day. Hey, anyone wonder why there's burnout in this? Anyone wonder why you have kids come up and they leave and never to come back? You think if you had that kind of a penalty, you think if someone said, hey, we're going to penalize you $10,000 every day you miss coming into work, you think you'd be stressed? This is worse than the left frames their contracts. Again, of course I didn't sign any of these things.
Now, I am, really quick, I am going to say this right here. If you miss work and you lose money as a result of that, then obviously that right there is on you. I'm pretty sure the vast majority of us watching this content who watch Steven Crowder understand that we all work jobs. We all have work jobs, and we understand that if you don't show up to work, you're probably going to lose money as a result of that. However, though, you're talking about profit. You're talking about potential profit loss, and not to mention potential salary and income loss here, that I think Stephen is going for on this note right here. Now, somebody is probably going to say, hey, look, this is obviously his fault if he doesn't show up to work, but I don't think that right there is the point. The big point is what is about to show up, because we have actually seen this, and you'll probably see, like I said, we can't actually come out and say the company's name because of, and don't worry, we'll get to that here soon. But the fact of the matter is, this very heavily implies a company that has a D at the beginning and an E at the end.
But I now know what other kids are signing out there. And here's the worst part. Yeah, that's terrible. I think it's, I just think that's wrong to treat people that way. But this is where, in going through this, and I needed to take some time because, look, I've always tried to be a happy warrior, and I want to go back to that. I haven't been happy for a while. To be really, I haven't been happy for a while because when you know what goes on behind these scenes, and you see how many people are complicit, it creates an air of hopelessness. It really does. Where you think the people who are supposed to be linking arms and fighting with you, fighting for you, want to punish you. So here's the worst part. Do not, kids, under any circumstances, sign a contract with people who claim to be conservative, but will penalize you 25% for any demonetization or sponsor boycott. Look, let me read this to you. If any of the major platforms, oh no, sorry, that's the second one. Let me go back to the first one. There's another 20%, it's 45% if you get a content strike. Let's start with the demonetization. If blank is boycotted or dropped by more than 50% of the advertising partners, the company is not able to replace them within 90 days, the fee will be reduced by 25%. That's a sponsorship boycott. So that's saying, hey, liberals, boycotts work. They work on our guys. We'll punish them for you. Let me go on. Specifically, YouTube demonetization. If any of the major platforms issues a content strike such that Crowder cannot be monetized on such a platform, and the company is not able to resolve the issue within 90 days, the fee will be reduced by 25% moving forward. Now, I thought this was a mistake because, you know, these people maybe didn't know who I am, that we've been demonetized for 3 years. No, it was made very clear to me in no uncertain terms. This is what's sent out to everybody.
Okay, let me kind of interject here for a second. Steven Crowder has received a lot of YouTube strikes. Okay, I think he gets a lot of his. I think he gets most of his revenue now through Rumble. Some people are getting a lot more money on Rumble. I know that I have a Rumble channel. I think I have about 12 videos over there, which, by the way, are not taking off in Rumble. I'm not complaining about Rumble. That's not what the hell I'm doing. So please don't think that I am. Rumble, of course, is a secondary platform for me to put much more risque takes up there that I cannot get away with here on YouTube. Now, here's the thing that you got to understand: Louderwood Crowder has been given strikes before. I think it was the 2020 election, which, by the way, we can't really and truly go too far into that right there, or else we're going to get suspended on that one right there. But I'm going to say this right here. Stephen continued to dig. Okay, the Blaze, for the most part, they had more along the lines of a, well, whatever happens. Okay, and I don't know if I told you this or not, but Glenn Beck and those at the Blaze have, for the most part, been on the mainstream media. So even if, say, Sarah Gonzalez, for example, has not been there. As a matter of fact, they even had Eric DeJoy up there at one point in time. The fact of the matter is this right here. They would know how to better get around what you can and cannot say. Crowder is on Fox News for a short period of time, not very often. And you'll see it in the Tim Pool clip that the thinking was maybe it was Fox News who did this, but Fox News already had Greg Gutfeld. Steven Crowder's got close to 6 million subscribers. His overall annual revenue just from YouTube alone, even if he's not monetized, is probably through the roof for what he's collected from YouTube. Also, his Rumble. So Steven Crowder has already more than likely got a plenty of money anyway. So you got to think to yourself, who the hell is going to probably do big tech's bidding? Well, there is this company, like I said, starts with a D, ends with an E, that has never received an actual YouTube monetization strike. Now you're probably thinking, well, what about the Blaze? Well, like I said before, the Blaze would know how to better manipulate the algorithm. They would know better what to say and what not to say. PragerU, I would argue that PragerU could have been the possibility of doing this, but PragerU is not exactly as prominent as many people think. Also, the Blaze, from what I understand, did get rid of Slightly Offensive, which is another reason why people thought that it could have been the Blaze, but I just don't think it was Glenn Beck's group. The thing about that D and E company, and like I said, we'll get there here momentarily. The thing about that particular company is, as I mentioned before, they never actually got a YouTube strike. Now, I want you guys to go back in time really quick. Candace Owens, she got into it with Ben Shapiro over the Kanye West thing. She was beginning very chummy with Kanye West, and of course, we all know how Ben feels about the phrase that starts with an A and then has a second word that starts with an S. We all know how he feels about that. And Matt Walsh, of course, is now their biggest moneymaker, and they even have billboards in New York City advertising what is a woman and stuff like that. So you got to wonder who's the one that's most likely to become more mainstream. This right here is part of the reason why so many people are levying their blame at the D and E. I don't say D. You guys, I'm pretty sure, figured out exactly the reasons why I didn't say the D and the other one. But the thing is, this right here, it on the surface looks that way, and of course there's further evidence that's given later on in this discussion.
And then if you get a strike, meaning a suspension, another 20% reduction. And then another 20% of it happens on Apple. And then another 10% of it happens on Facebook. And then another 10% of it happens on Spotify. Imagine you're deplatformed, as we've seen in the past, where all of the major entities decide to remove you in one day. Rather than having a conservative alternative, you would now be down to 5 to 15% of the revenue of your contract. Think about this for a second. Those in charge, the big conservative, the big con, and it really is the biggest con going right now, they're making it known in their contracts that they will enforce the guidelines of big tech and punish conservatives on their behalf. Don't worry, Wojcicki. Trust me, these conservatives will stay in line. If they get demonetized, we take away 25% of their operating budget. Take another 20% away if they get a hard strike. Hey, don't worry, Zuckerberg. We've got your back. Hope to see you at the UFC Apex. Let me ask you, can you imagine if this show not only was never permitted to take risks per our contract as it relates to big tech guidelines, like as far as the content guidelines, right? There's content guidelines and there's advertiser guidelines. Can you imagine a world where this show could never take risks in relation to those guidelines on, say, things like mRNA injections, election integrity, take your pick. But
this right here to me, looking at it now, was the biggest tell. Let me go ahead and go through this really quick. Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, they helped push the vaccine. Okay, they helped push it. Okay, now I probably wasn't supposed to say that, but they helped push it. Okay, what did the D and the E do right after 2020? Throw it under the bus, right? Didn't want to talk about it. What did Crowder do? Crowder kept going, and then eventually got a strike. Then he went again and eventually got another strike. Who always gets a strike for mentioning the C-19? Crowder does. D&E never does. They never get a strike for anything. And like I said, you'll see here in a second. But they never get one. But yet Crowder does. So I think that he just told you with don't worry, Zuckerberg. Don't worry, Wojcicki. I think he just said that. I think he just told you who it was that did it. Now, guys, I'm going to halt this part of the video here, but trust me, this video right here will be in the description box because, see, to me, and trust me, there's a lot more evidence in this right here, but to me, this right here is all you should need when having this discussion of knowing who it is that Steven Crowder is, in fact, talking about. With that right there being said, though, I want to go ahead and remind everyone, I know this clip's a little bit old, but, and don't worry, we'll talk about it a little bit more on the other side before we look at Tim Pool because he brought up some very, very good stuff as well. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this for you guys, and then you guys can just kind of think for yourself exactly what's going on here.
Be shocked if he didn't also have a secret meeting with YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, who can be seen here saying that he doesn't need to worry about anything because, of course, he's perfectly safe.
My son, who's 13 years old, started watching Ben Shapiro videos, and he's like the gateway drug to the next group, and then it goes right to Jordan Peterson, then it goes down, and in 3 clicks, he was at neo-Nazi stuff. It was like astonishing, and then I had to listen to it at dinner.
There's a set of content that has to meet the community guidelines. Ben Shapiro is going to meet the community guidelines.
Have you noticed that he's never been censored from social media ever? He's never had a post taken down for violating community guidelines on any of the platforms ever. Because he always toes the establishment line and doesn't make too many waves. He supports gay marriage, he supports gay adoption, etc., etc. Oh, you don't think that he does? You think that I'm wrong? Do you need me to pull out another receipt? Okay. Just last summer when somebody tweeted to him, criticizing him, thinking that he was against gay marriage, he responded by saying, quote, "I've been libertarian on same-sex marriage for years, before Ogerfell, but you couldn't bother to Google." Ogerfell is the Supreme Court case that decided that issue. Ogerfell versus Hodges. So right there, when he's libertarian, meaning he doesn't care. He agrees government to coerce, if not force people to take the new coronavirus vaccine. He recently tweeted, quote, "Vaccine demand is dropping, particularly among the young and among minorities. To reverse this, we should tell people they can go back to normal if they get vaccinated. This is precisely what Biden refuses to do because continuing COVID panic is his lever for change." I've never liked Ben, and quite frankly, I find it bizarre that so many people actually do. First I'd ever heard of him was when he was championing his never Trumpism for the Republican establishment and joined Michelle Fields to perpetuate her hoax about how Trump's campaign manager at the time, Corey Lewandowski, tried to grab her arm and throw her to the ground, and then the security footage got released, and that got debunked. Remember that? Of course, that was just the beginning, and then after Trump won the Republican nomination, little Ben doubled down and warned that Trump would hurt conservatism if he were to beat Hillary Clinton.
Will Trump hurt conservatism if he loses badly? They said Goldwater did, but Nixon got elected 4 years ago.
I mean, I think that he's already hurt conservatism pretty badly. My concern is that, and one of the reasons I'm not voting for him is because I'm concerned that he hurts conservatism if he wins. He may, if he loses, I think that he hurts conservatism less in some ways because there's been a repudiation of some of the things that he believes and says.
He even wrote this article titled, "No, Trump isn't going to save the Supreme Court," and warned that if Trump became president, he would appoint liberals to the Supreme Court. And don't even get me started how there hasn't been a war in the Middle East that he hasn't salivated getting America involved in while he armchair quarterbacks and cheerleads it on. Oh, I'm not done with this clown yet, so stay tuned. But real quick, subscribe to my channel if you're new here, because if this is your first time watching my channel, obviously you need to hear more. So subscribe to the channel and check back here on a regular basis. And don't give me this crap about how he supposedly voted for Trump in 2020, because when somebody of his influence, who is supposedly as gifted as him, was actively working against Donald Trump in 2016, effectively handing potentially tens of thousands of votes to Hillary Clinton, that's somebody who doesn't deserve any respect or whose political analysis is permanently flawed. But it's not just Donald Trump that he has a warped view of. He called Ron Paul alt-right and anti-Semitic. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, then you must be a new viewer then, because I always have the receipts. Here's a tweet from when Ron Paul was running for president in 2012, when little Ben said, quote, "Ron Paul is manifestly insane. As in previous debates, he is now gripping the pen as he would the neck of a Jew." And here's a list of 20 different people or news outlets that he tweeted that the all-knowing little Ben says are alt-right, including Ann Coulter, Donald Trump, Pat Buchanan, and Ron Paul. Oh, and Alex Jones. The list goes on. This is who conservative college kids across the country think is a genius. I would call him. And he's probably the only person on the entire planet who puts a 36-inch board in a plastic bag at the self-checkout.
All right, as you can see, I just went shopping at Home Depot. You should do the same. This wood, this board, this magnificent piece of poplar is now mine.
And yes, I know he did the self-checkout because no Home Depot employee would do this. I'd be willing to bet that that was his first time in a Home Depot. I doubt that he even owns a screwdriver. I don't even think he would know the difference between a flathead and a Phillips. He's the kind of guy who probably failed shop class in middle school, or come to think of it, he's more of a home ec type of person.
In fact, I think the Miss America competition was always stupid, right? I'm the guy who, when I was a teenager, used to unsubscribe from the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated.
When President Trump invited hundreds of social media personalities to the White House 2 summers ago for the social media summit so that we could all meet each other and network together, Ben complained about it and said that it was a horrible idea.
Why are you having a bunch of people who are at the very least deeply controversial to the White House in the first place? Like, there are a bunch of people who are at the White House in this particular group of folks who were basically, have been involved in conspiracy theorizing. He's bringing a bunch of people who ought not be at the White House to the White House. It's dumb and frankly, it's wrong.
Well, I'm glad that you weren't there, and you wouldn't have fit in anyway because it was a bunch of independent social media personalities who built our followings organically instead of being bankrolled by billionaires like you. Seriously, in case you're not aware, once he quit Breitbart, he was bankrolled by the Wilkes brothers. He'd rather hang out with people like Mark Zuckerberg, who invited him over to his house or one of his houses for a secret dinner to assure him that he wouldn't be censoring him from Facebook at all. Oh, you didn't know that Ben Shapiro had a secret dinner with Mark Zuckerberg to discuss those things? Well, you must be new to my channel,
house
so just
environment. I'm going to go ahead and let this part play out really quick until I can skip
Matter
it.
released their
Because I think Tim Pool actually got onto some very good things.
80.
But before I go any further, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way, okay? Candace Owens, and by the way, this is funny because there was a Candace Owens ad right there. Candace Owens, she got into it with Ben Shapiro over the Kanye West thing. Okay, now let me go ahead and break this right here down for you too. Candace Owens gave a rebuttal. In her rebuttal, which, by the way, I will try to find and put inside the description box or the comment section one, Candace Owens did, in fact, talk about Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager is also, and to go on top of this, Prager never really disciplined her. As a matter of fact, Prager actually gave her an opportunity to come out and kind of explain what she meant. And kind of gave her, we'll call it the Billy Martin. Basically, it's a mea culpa is what it is. And I got to bring up Mark Dice again because that very, very last shot with Ben holding the board kind of gives you an idea of exactly how out of touch he is with overall mainstream actual conservatives. Most conservatives are working class. They prefer someone like a Steven Crowder, hence the fact that he's got 6 million subscribers, hence the fact that a lot of Ben Shapiro's subscribers, which I think Ben's got right around 3, a lot of his subscribers are also subscribed to Clavin, Knowles, and Walsh. Some people subscribe to Walsh, but they won't subscribe to Shapiro. But I can promise you right now that a good portion of Walsh's subscribers are also subscribed to Ben Shapiro and listen to him as well. Some people down the Daily Wire 4 or 5 times a day. I just can't do it. The only person, in my opinion, that's even tolerable to even listen to is Michael Knowles.
Works, but there's an understanding you need to have. The machine itself is these contracts. It's the product of how the law is structured, how the market is structured, and it's an inevitability. The only way it changes when people like Steven Crowder don't sign these deals, people like any of you who are signing up don't sign these deals, say no to these deals, and build a completely new system. And that means we've got big challenges. It means that Disney's got an advantage. You want to know why Disney's got an advantage? Because when Steven Crowder, he leaves the Blaze, he's obviously shopping around. That's why he's got this contract. He says these terms are insane. He doesn't need to sign it. Many people do need to sign these deals, exactly. And they do sign these deals. For a company like Disney, I remember I got a contract from them. I signed it. It was a lot of cash I didn't have. And I said, okay. And then within the confines of that contract, I eventually was like, I know what I have to do and I know what I'm not going to do. And you're not going to get me to do anything. please break my contract. They said, no, I got locked up for a couple of years. They call that golden handcuffs. It is extremely common in the media industry. I think Cenk Uygur talked about it when he was at MSNBC.
Yep, same thing happened to Jesse Ventura when he was critical of the war in Iraq. They silenced him and essentially got rid of his show that they paid a lot of money for, and he essentially a year was just sitting and couldn't do any interviews or his own show, which is absolutely
so
crazy.
let's do this. I'll start off by saying Steven Crowder launching his own thing is the most important thing he can do, but that the current reality of big media, especially with an anti-establishment landscape, is that these deals are quite literally impossible. And more importantly, they're impossible for someone like Steven Crowder. So I'll say this to get started, and then y'all are gonna have to ask me questions, I guess, on what you're thinking. Crowder's too big. There's no way anyone can sign a deal with Steven Crowder. It's just that simple. Dude's got nearly 6 million subscribers. How do you do a deal with this man? He owns the space. So imagine we got a handful of companies. Obviously, everybody's giving their thoughts on which company they think this was that offered him a contract, but there's a lot, right? Obviously, there was The Blaze. We know Rumble's doing a lot of deals with people. The Daily Wire is obviously another big one. They've got a big roster. What are some other companies in the space? Are there anybody?
InfoWars.
InfoWars, obviously. I doubt InfoWars. I don't know if Steven would go to InfoWars, though.
OAN. No, I mean...
OAN, Newsmax.
Given the legal troubles,
Crowder,
probably not.
Honestly,
InfoWars.
Fox is there.
Yeah, absolutely, Fox.
They're looking for a comedian to host, I heard.
Well,
he'd be a great hire.
No. They got Gutfeld. He's slaying it.
Yeah, Alex Jones and Steven Crowder did multiple interviews, and Alex Jones even said that he's moving away from his kind of libertarian policies and agreeing with Steven when it comes to more kind of statist solutions.
It's possible. It's completely possible. So everybody has their speculation.
CRTV is also another big one.
No, but
Turning Point.
CRTV is The Blaze.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Yeah, and Turning Point's a maybe, but I think Fox is probably a really good guess too. Like people got to understand, whoever this company is, like, I would tell you, Fox probably has the worst terms. You guys want to play some games? Fox guests aren't allowed on this show. Yeah, not allowed. Fox hosts
contractually?
I don't know about contractually.
Now, where I'm going to disagree with Tim on this one is that Fox News is kind of sort of already headed to the more suburban mainstream. You got to understand that in 2020, Fox News added a lot of viewers. Most of those viewers that came over were mostly suburban moderates, okay? A lot of them came over at that time. I think Fox, for a while, has kind of taken on the more pro-establishment. They've kind of sort of always been the more pro-establishment network. Newsmax, it's possible that they could have came out and said, hey, look, I would like to sign Steven Crowder, but I don't think Newsmax is big enough to give him the type of contract that he would want. I've already expressed my opinion on PragerU, that PragerU just doesn't seem like the MO. If PragerU was willing to allow Candace Owens to do a Billy Martin, a mea culpa, I don't see them having much of a problem having Steven Crowder on. Okay, The Blaze, okay, you could see The Blaze, but I think the mere fact that Steven went ahead and addressed that, and seeing how Glenn Beck, for the most part, has not been friendly with Susan Wojcicki, but yet they've managed to stay alive, as I've mentioned before, because they know how to avoid the censors. I have a hard time seeing that The Blaze being it. Turning Point USA is another possibility, but Charlie Kirk is also on Rumble with Kash Patel. Posobiec is over there, and even though I've even thought to myself that maybe Posobiec was really a Democrat plant, I have a hard time with it. There is one more thing that I want to go ahead and throw out there. When Luke Radowski shared a tweet, I'm putting it up right now, Dave Rubin commented on it. And Dave Rubin is also pretty close with Shapiro. Lauren Chen also commented on it. But Lauren Chen, it was theorized that she may be trying to get a desk at the Daily Wire. I don't think Lauren Chen is trying to do that. So I don't see them being a part of it. However, I could see Dave Rubin at some point in time, the Rubin Report, merging with the Daily Wire because of the closeness that he has now with Shapiro. By the way, Dice did do a video on that. I'll try to leave that in the comments of the description box. Either one, I will try to leave that there for you guys to see too, to go along with the one that I originally put up, the one that I originally played during this video here. Fact of the matter is this right here screams DE. BS. I have to use initials. It screams the MW. It screams these people like crazy. It just does. It just has a very, very awkward feel to it. And I'm going to also leave this segment right here in the comment section as well. There's a lot in this video right here too as well to look at, but it's also kind of meandering to a certain extent. Fact of the matter is this right here. This right here definitely seems a little bit shady. It seems very shady. But I do want to make one last point. Paul Ryan, the same guy who came out a while back saying we need to be targeting suburban voters, even though suburban voters are officially now for the Democratic Party. They're already gone. You're not going to win them back. Paul Ryan, same person, is now at Fox News helping control some of the writing. Paul Ryan also at the same time is somebody that would try to stamp somebody like Steven Crowder out. You see, the idea is they want to go in a much more suburban direction, which is an intentional attempt at losing elections in the future. I just figured I'd throw that out there. And with that there being said, let's hop back in front of the camera. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is of my honest opinion that it is exactly the D with the E. I don't say the W because obviously the way the censors are. And as I mentioned before, all of these will be in the description box of the comment section. But guys, there is an issue that does need to be discussed, and I think I need to address it now, especially to those of you who are subscribed to this channel. And this right kind of has something to do with what's actually going on. I do this right here mostly for fun. Do I want to eventually get paid for it? Yes, of course I want to be monetized. If I didn't want to be monetized, I wouldn't ask you guys to hit the like button. I wouldn't ask you guys to hit the subscribe button either. But I have an ability to not have to ask people for money, and let me explain the reason why. You see, obviously I've got another set of income that's coming in that allows me not to ask for donations. So you'll never, ever, ever see anything like a PayPal or a PayPartner or anything like that right there to take money from people, because I'm not in the business of doing that. It just feels to me like you're asking for cash when in reality what you should be doing is you should be earning the cash instead. I know that somebody's going to say that right there sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but as I've said before, and I've never hid this, and of course you guys can come back to this video and say, oh God, he gets money from the VA. Yeah, I get money from the VA. It's called friggin' doing your time. It's called putting in a claim, and they actually decide to pay you. If they pay you a certain amount, you're just going to renounce that? Holy shit. I mean, if you think I ain't going to renounce, if you think I'm going to renounce that crap, the hell is wrong with you? By the way, I still find ways to go to work. Last Christmas, I worked a job. I also worked a little bit earlier this year. I'm always constantly going in and out of work. I eventually, at some point in time, want to narrow these videos down into simple projects so that way I can post less of them, but they do better in the algorithm and they're much more informative and much more entertaining for the audience to actually watch. I do care about this, and like I said before, I do obviously want to get paid doing this. However, there is one thing that you will more than likely never see me do, and I'm going to go ahead and say this now. And I know somebody's going to say never, but then again, like I said, I'm in a position where I ain't got to do it. I probably am not going to want to sign a contract or an exclusive contract. You see, the way I would probably handle something is like, let's say Crowder, for example. Let's have John Claymore on the show. I'm not going to sign a contract with him. If anything, what I'm probably going to do is, hey, look, man, just pay me this right here, and I'll show up and I'll do a 30 minutes worth of 30-minute conversation with you or something like that right there. No exclusive contract. Are you sure about this? No, I don't want to do an exclusive contract because that right there means that 2 years from now, I may get pissed off and I may get upset with you. You see, if you want me on your show as your guest and you're paying me to be your guest, that is all too fine to me. I don't think I need to sign a contract with anybody. This right here, I run this like a small business. Even though it's something that, quite frankly, I view more as fun and enjoyable, I do obviously take it serious. I'm taking it much more serious now. But at the end of the day, though, this channel right here is mine. It's also yours. Gear Issue 33 is mine. It's also yours, okay? The content that goes on Rumble, that is mine. It's also yours for you to watch, for you to enjoy. That right there is the reason why I do it. But at the same time, though, I still run this right like a small business. I don't want anybody coming in here and saying, hey, man, I'll pay you such and such amount of money, but then at the same time, though, you have to surrender your own content. As a matter of fact, on Rumble, the way that I have got it set up on Rumble for my actual pay is I don't get 100% of the pay. Do you know why I don't get 100% of the pay? Why I set it up like that right there? Because if I set up for 100% pay, that means Rumble gets full actual access to my content, and it suddenly becomes theirs and no longer mine. Dude, I'd like to get paid, yes, but at the same time that I'm not hurting for as money as many others are. So in that case right there, I can afford only getting half the amount or the max amount that's allowed per video. I want to retain the rights to my own content. It's just the way that it is. Now, the biggest red flag to me, and I mentioned this several times behind the computer, the biggest red flag to me that it was in fact the D, the company with the D and the E, is the mere fact that Wojcicki was obviously brought up. Crowder probably didn't even mean to do that. It probably just came out when he mentioned Susan. I don't think it was the Blaze. I don't think it was anyone else. I just believe that it's very, very possible that it more than likely is that company I just mentioned. And like I said before, this video right here could in fact trip the algorithm. It could trip the censorship. For all I know, it could get a freaking strike. That's one of the main reasons why I've chosen to release this video on Thursday, to give it an additional day. I wanted to give myself an additional day to see if it was even worth releasing, which more than likely I will probably do anyway, because that is my way of throwing up my middle finger. Guys, with that right there being said, everything will be left in the description box of this video here. If you like the content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.